Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Wacky Wednesday, a weekly series where we explore wacky deck ideas in both Standard and Modern, and this week we're taking a look at a Guttersnipe Burn in Standard, a blue-red deck built around Guttersnipe, a 3-mana 2/2 Goblin Shaman that says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Guttersnipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. So we're trying to fill our deck with as many instants and sorceries as possible, a lot of cantripping effects so we can keep triggering Guttersnipe over and over again. Then the other win condition in the deck is Enigma Drake, a 3-mana star 4, where Enigma Drake's power is equal to the number of instants and sorceries in our graveyard, so that combines very well in any Guttersnipe deck where we're going to want a lot of cantripping effects and a lot of instants and sorceries. And of course Enigma Drake also has flying, so makes for an excellent win condition in this deck. And we also have 2 copies of Cryptic Serpent, a 7-mana 6/5 that costs 1 generic mana less to cast for each instant and sorcery in our graveyard, so it can often come down for just 2 mana. So let's take a look at the rest of the deck list, starting out with our 1-drops, where we have 4 copies of Opt, 1 mana instant to let us scry 1 and then draw a card. Then we also have 4 copies of Crash Through, giving our creatures trample until end of turn and drawing us a card. The trample part is not too relevant, but it can be useful with Enigma Drake or Cryptic Serpent in play. And we also have 4 copies of Warlord's Fury, which is pretty similar to Crash Through, giving our creatures first strike instead and also drawing us a card. And then we also have 4 copies of Shock to deal 2 damage to any target, to take out opposing creatures or to go to the opponent's face. Then we get to our 2-mana cantripping effects, where we have 4 copies of Chandra, which lets us draw 2 and then discard 1. Unless we attacked with a creature, then we don't have to discard. And 4 copies of Strategic Planning, which lets us take a look at the top 3 cards of our library. 1 of them we can put into our hand, and the rest goes into our graveyard, which is useful at fueling Enigma Drake if we happen to put additional instants and sorceries in our graveyard. And of course helps us dig for our win conditions if we don't have them already. And then we also have 4 copies of Lightning Strike as an additional removal spell that can also go to the face, dealing 3 damage to any target. And then of course our win conditions being Guttersnipe, Enigma Drake, and Cryptic Serpent. Then our mana base is pretty straightforward. We have 4 copies of Spirebluff Canal, enters battlefield untapped if it's one of our first 3 lands. Sulfur Falls enters untapped if we control an island or a mountain. Then 8 basic mountains and 6 basic islands, so just 22 lands because we have a lot of cantripping effects to make sure we hit our 3rd land drop to play Guttersnipe or Enigma Drake. Then taking a quick look at our sideboard, we have 2 copies of Spell Pierce against non-creature spells, 3 Chandra's Defeats against the red decks, 3 Unsummons against the green decks, 3 Abrades to deal with artifacts or as an additional removal spell, and 4 Negates against the control decks. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand seems pretty good. We've got our Guttersnipe already, 3 lands, some cantrips, and a Lightning Strike. Just have to hope our Guttersnipe survives. And sometimes in this deck it's okay to not do anything until you play your Guttersnipe, but it's probably fine to just play one of our 2-mana cantrips on turn 2, since they're very likely to find another instant or sorcery we can play to trigger Guttersnipe again. Opponent on red-black. Alright, picked up another Chandra. I think we want to strategic planning first, since there's a chance we get to attack with our creature and then Chandra for more value. So we could take Cryptic Serpent, could take a Crash Through just as a cantrip. Don't have double blue yet, so Cryptic Serpent is going to be a little bit difficult to cast. But the advantage of taking the Cryptic Serpent is that we put 2 instants and sorceries in our graveyard. So I think I'm going to take the Cryptic Serpent just because we're facing a red-black deck that's likely to kill our Guttersnipe as soon as possible. So we're going to want the additional threat. Alright, opponent on double Dragonskull Summit. I think we still go for the Guttersnipe here, since the upside's pretty high if he gets to untap. Alright, no shock, that's good. And our opponent lets us untap. So I think we want to attack first, and then we'll Chandra. Trigger Guttersnipe, looking for a basic island here, or a Sulfur Falls. Right, instead more Spirebluff Canals, so forced to play it here. Say go, and next turn we get to cast quite a few non-creature spells here to trigger Guttersnipe. And a Dragon Sword, alright, opponent's on a Dragon deck. And Enigma Drake, a pretty good pickup. Opponent could be casting a Glorybringer next turn potentially, so we have to be a little bit careful. I think we attack with Guttersnipe. Then we could Shard a course. And if we find an untapped land, we can play Enigma Drake. Or we could strategic planning, but I kind of like Charter coursing when we know we're attacking with a creature. So let's attack. Cryptic Serpent right now would only cost 3 mana. If we cast any non-creature spell, it's gonna cost only 2 mana. But we only have the 2 blue mana currently. So I think I like Charter coursing here. Trigger Guttersnipe. And we found the island, so now I think I'm fine playing the Enigma Drake. And then we have 2 threats in play that our opponent has to deal with. And I'm fine if either one survives. I guess playing Cryptic Serpent's a better hedge against Glorybringer, but our opponents might not have had their 5th untapped land. And Nicol Bolas, that's a good one. Makes us discard. I think I'm fine discarding the Spirebluff here. Alright, so we currently can't get rid of Nicol Bolas very easily. But we can probably just burn our opponent out here. So let's see, Lightning Strike is 5, put them to 7. And then we need to string together just 3 more cantrips, which is almost possible here, just short of 1 mana I think. But our opponent's going to be forced to block the Enigma Drake and take the 2 damage from Guttersnipe. So we can probably lead with Opt here I think. Since if we can find a 1 mana cantrip, then we're probably gonna have lethal this turn. And a Spirebluff can bottom that one. Find another Opt. Does that change anything? I think we Opt here. So Shock should do it here, so we can Lightning Strike plus Shock. Shock is 4, Lightning Strike's 5, so that's 9, and that's lethal. Don't even have to attack here. So our opponent off to a pretty slow start, and we were able to capitalize by sticking a Guttersnipe, which dealt quite a bit of damage. Alright, so against a dragon deck, what do we want? Unsummon could be okay. I'm guessing Chandra's Defeat is gonna be pretty decent, killing Glorybringers and Nicol Bolas's. Could go as far as bringing in some Negates or Abrades to kill the Dragon's Horde, but I think we're gonna just do some light sideboarding, only bringing in 3 Chandra's Defeats, and I'm guessing Shock is probably our weakest card. Just want to keep as many cantrips as possible. Think we'll just try this. Alright, this hand looks fine. We have 3 cantrips to find a 3rd land, already have 2 Guttersnipes. Just have to hope one of them gets to survive. Given that we have 2 red cantrips, I think I'm okay leading with Mountain and playing one of them instead of playing Opt, which does let us dig a little deeper. But then next turn we get to go Crash Through plus Opt. Alright, strategic planning looks to be the play here, since it digs deeper for land, and we'll take the Spirebluff here. And there's a Glintsleeve Siphoner. Alright, kind of regretting we took out those shocks now, but that's fine. Alright, so we could just play a Guttersnipe here, which would be reasonable. Opponent doesn't have any energy where they get to draw cards with the Siphoner right away, so it's probably fine to play Guttersnipe here. And then maybe next turn we can Lightning Strike the Siphoner, hopefully with the Guttersnipe still in play, but pretty likely that our Guttersnipe dies here. Yep, there's the Abrade, and a Duress as well. Can take our Lightning Strike here, is my guess. Yep. Found a land, so we can play Guttersnipe and one of our cantrips. And I think we want to Opt here, giving us a bit more selection, but I suppose we can wait until we get a bit more info on what the opponent's turn looks like, since that might change our decision on what to keep on top with the Opt. And if our opponent goes for a removal spell on Guttersnipe, we can just respond by casting Opt to still get our 2 damage. Is this a Nicol Bolas? Nope, Vraska's Contempt. Alright, let's Opt. So we'll be looking for an additional threat here. Bottom the mountain, draw Sulfur Falls. Here's hoping our opponent's out of removal for the Cryptic Serpent, since we're gonna need the Serpent. Alright, drawing another one helps. So how much does Serpent cost? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it's gonna cost just 2 mana, so we can deploy both Cryptic Serpents here. We can even cast a Crash Through first, in case we find something better. We don't. Alright, double Cryptic Serpent is not a bad turn. And if our opponent plays Nicol Bolas, we can discard the Spirebluff pretty easily. And the 5 toughness on Cryptic Serpent means it doesn't die to Glorybringer. And Crash Through with 2 Cryptic Serpents in play is actually irrelevant, giving them trample. The rest is gonna take it. And the Siphoner is gonna stay back. Let's opt main phase here. Bottom the mountain. And Warlord's Fury is not bad. Keep cycling, look for more threats. Enigma Drake would be amazing here, for example. Alright, Chart of course means we'll attack first. With our first striking Cryptic Serpents. Opponent might even chump block here. Nope, they're gonna take it. And then we'll chart a course. Drawing 2 cards. And just 2 lands, sadly. So we'll play Spirebluff, say go. And then look for some additional burn spells to finish off our opponents. Enigma Drakes would be great. Guttersnipe, not that amazing here since we're empty-handed. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, Cryptic Serpent's getting the job done. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. And how about this hand? 5 lands is a bit too many lands for us to work with, so I think we'll go to 6. Alright, I can work with this. And we want a Warlord's Fury. I kind of do, since the way our lands are lining up here, we will have 1 spare mana next turn anyway. So we'll just play the Warlord's Fury, make our Enigma Drake better, and make our Cryptic Serpent cheaper. Sometimes there's a bit of tension between Guttersnipe and Enigma Drake and Cryptic Serpents, since with Guttersnipe you kind of want to sandbag some of your spells, while with Enigma Drake and Cryptic Serpent you want to play them as soon as possible. Opponent on green-white. And another Cryptic Serpent. And can probably discard the Sulfur Falls here and play the Spirebluff. Don't think we'll need more than 3 lands for the time being. Our Cryptic Serpent's only costing us 4 mana at the moment. Alright, Ronas's Monument. So their creatures could get +2/+2 and trample. Think we're fine just playing Enigma Drake here. And then next turn we can probably strategic planning into perhaps even Cryptic Serpent if we get lucky. And there's Rishkar for just 2 mana. Into another Rishkar, alright. Not the best combo. That's on tap. We get to play strategic planning into Cryptic Serpent most likely here if we can find 1 instance of sorcery to put into the graveyard. And we're probably going to want to do that main phase to grow with the Enigma Drake. Alright, so we can take the Lightning Strike to kill Rishkar, but then we won't be able to cast Cryptic Serpent this turn, or we can take, let's say, the Sulfur Falls, Lightning Strike goes to the graveyard alongside strategic planning, putting a total of 5 instances of sorceries in the graveyard, so we can cast a Cryptic Serpent here. So pretty close, but given that we already have a Lightning Strike, I think I'm fine taking the Sulfur Falls, attacking for 5 with Enigma Drake, and playing a 2 mana Cryptic Serpent. And next turn we're pretty close to presenting lethal. Throne Lieutenant's gonna be a blocker for Cryptic Serpent potentially. Throne Lieutenant into Leonian War Leader, and they're making their Rishkar pretty huge. So we'll take it. Alright, so what now? I'm probably gonna lead with strategic planning here. And find another Enigma Drake and an opt, so I don't mind putting our opponent in Chumblock mode here. I think I'm fine taking the Enigma Drake. So now we have a 7-powered Enigma Drake, and we can attack with both, and if our opponent takes it, they're dead to Lightning Strike. And we get to follow up with either another Serpent or another Drake, which are both pretty good here. Opponent does double block. Nope. Just a chum block. Alright, so I think we'll just let damage happen. And it feels like playing another Cryptic Serpent is probably fine here, since it's a better blocker versus the War Leader and Rishkar. Although against a removal spell, we would rather want the Enigma Drake as an extra finisher. But I'm a little bit scared that we might die here, as we see another Thorn Lieutenant popping up Rishkar. And a Virtuous Gearhulk, yep. That can definitely add a lot of power and toughness to the board. But as long as we survive here, we should have lethal with our Enigma Drake with Lightning Strike. So our only concern is surviving here, which should be doable. 15, 16, 17. We can soak up 5. So we go down to 1. And we could even Guttersnipe first into Lightning Strike, but it's not even necessary here, since just Lightning Strike with Enigma Drake is enough. I guess we now showed them Guttersnipe for no good reason, but that's okay. Lightning Strike, trigger Guttersnipe, and attack with an 8-powered Enigma Drake. Alright, so that's gonna do it for game 1. What do we want to sideboard? Unsummon could be pretty decent. Abrade could be okay against the Monument itself, but I don't know if we want to board too heavily just for the Monument itself. So I think I'm just going to bring in the 3 Unsummons and cutting the 3 Shocks, which seem pretty low impact in this matchup. I guess we can cut 1 more Shock for an additional Abrade and submit this. Alright, this hand seems fine. We've got some cantripping action, a Guttersnipe and a Lightning Strike. And I think I'm fine playing the Crash Through here. Power up our Enigma Drake, find a play for turn 2, which we did. Nothing from the opponent yet. Let's plan strategically. Look for more cantrips. Opponent may be cycling a Scattergroves here. Or a Desert of the True. And we could take a Crash Through, we could take a Lightning Strike. Don't think we need the Sulfur Falls. I think I'll take the Crash Through here, since we already have a Lightning Strike and Unsummon to interact with creatures. So I just want more cantrips to fuel Enigma Drake and Guttersnipe. And there's a Hungering Hydra. Can always kill it with a Lightning Strike if we want to. Alright, so the question is, do we play Enigma Drake or Guttersnipe first? I think I'm leaning Enigma Drake just because it threatens to deal more damage. And then we would like to find a land for next turn so we can go Guttersnipe into a 1-mana cantrip. But otherwise we'll just play Guttersnipe. And Enigma Drake also blocks the Hydra better than Guttersnipe does. And there's a Vizier of the Menagerie, that's fine. Alright, and another Unsummon. Think I'm fine using this as a setup turn for Guttersnipe, and then next turn we get to unload all our cheap spells. So we'll attack for 3 with Enigma Drake, I think. Since we should be able to win the race with double Unsummon and a Lightning Strike. Play Guttersnipe, hope it survives, and then next turn it's party time. There's a Shana into Resilient Kenra, pumping the Hungering Hydra. So we're taking 7 here. And a Dauntless Bodyguard. Alright, so opponent emptied their hand quite quickly here. Gonna have to play catch up with our Unsummons now. Alright, land is good, so how do we want to do this? We probably want to main phase our Unsummons to grow Enigma Drake. So probably gonna start with a cantrip here. Or we could Lightning Strike the Hydra. So what we could do is Lightning Strike Hydra, Unsummon Vizier, Unsummon Shana, for example, which we can do, and set them back quite a bit. And then that's 6 damage from Guttersnipe. Enigma Drake's gonna be 6 power. That seems like a pretty good line, and it's the most defensive line we have available, which seems reasonable, so I'm gonna go for it. And the next turn our cantrips should be enough to get the job done. Unsummon Vizier. Unsummon Shana. And get in for 6. And then next turn, just casting these cantrips should be good enough. So they have to deal with both our Guttersnipe and our Enigma Drake. And Stram's Expertise, alright. Into Shana. That's a nice combo. But it's not gonna be good enough. So we'll take 4. And their opponent scoops it up. Awesome, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. And this hand seems good. Double Enigma Drake, a Warlord's Fury to fuel them, and perfect mana. And planning on 2 is perfect. So these Enigma Drakes are going to get pretty big. Opponent on Botanical Sanctum into Lateral Elves. So blue-green ramp deck. Think I like planning more than Charter Course here. Could take a shock to answer the Lateral Elves. It's probably okay. But I'm probably still gonna play Enigma Drake next turn. And there's Jade Light Ranger. Reveals Merfolk Branchwalker. And they're gonna keep it on top. Fair enough. So we'll just play Enigma Drake here. And then probably next turn play another Drake. And then we can start unloading all our instants and sorceries to grow our Enigma Drakes. Basic islands, our opponent's pretty deep into blue, so we might not see cards like Steel Leaf Champion make an appearance. There's a Branchwalker, reveals Forest, into Adventurous Impulse, which reveals Hostage Taker. Wow, okay. That could be a scary card, but we do have a Lightning Strike to answer it. So let's get in for 4 and play a second Enigma Drake. And then next turn it's party time. Can unload all our cheap instants and sorceries. Alright, there's the Ether Hub, so that can let them cast a Hostage Taker. If they also have a Blossoming Defense, we could be in trouble. So hopefully they don't. And that also means we don't get to attack with our Enigma Drake that got stolen. Alright, let's try. And they did indeed have Blossoming Defense. Yep, that's unfortunate. Alright, so just the one Enigma Drake is gonna have to get the job done here. So what now? Attack and Charter Course? Do we shock Lateral Elves or Branchwalker? Keeping the Crash Throughs is useful for after they play our Enigma Drake with Hostage Taker. We're only taking 9 damage next turn. But the question is, do we need the card advantage from Charter Course, or do we just want to get in more damage with Enigma Drake? And I think we want to get in more damage, so we probably just want to Charter Course here. Although Crash Through plus Shock on Branchwalker might be fine, but we might want to go Shock Face next turn for that surprise burst damage. So I think I'll Charter Course here before attacking, and discard a Crash Through, and attack for 7. So let's say our opponent doesn't kill us next turn and plays Enigma Drake. Then we still have to deal 13 damage basically, if you count a 4 toughness on Enigma Drake. So can we get there? 7, 14, yeah, we should be able to get there. So if they don't have another Blossoming Defense to kill us, then we should have lethal next turn. Harvester is going to make that trickier. And they do cast the Enigma Drake as well. Alright, so I think the Harvester makes it so we won't be able to deal enough damage here if our opponent double blocks. So we'll go to 2 here. I guess never mind, our opponent can only block with either Enigma Drake or Harvester, and we have Lightning Strike plus Shock to kill the Harvester, so we might still get there. Cycle a Crash Through. Yeah, I think we've got it. Cycle another Crash Through. And Warlord's Fury is not even necessary here, so we can just attack with our Enigma Drake, and however our opponent blocks, they're dead. So our opponent should have maybe kept back an extra creature to crew the Harvester here. And an 11-powered Enigma Drake across the finish line. Alright, so against a Sultai Hostage Takery deck, how do we want to sideboard? They did also have Blossoming Defenses, so usually would like Unsummon, but against the opponent's version that might not be necessary, since they're less heavy on the Galta side of things. So maybe we just want more Abrade to have more removal for Hostage Taker, could see that. And then Shock can probably go to make room for Abrade. Maybe 1 Unsummon instead of Shock is still fine. Alright, let's try this. And Abrade also deals with Harvester nicely. This hand seems fine. Turn 1 elf. This is where a shock can be useful. We're just gonna cycle this Fury, keep the Crash through, since it's a bit more useful. Tapped Fetid Pools into Wild Growth Walker. Definitely worth killing here, I think. Or we can just ignore it. But our opponent has quite a few Explorer creatures in their deck. So I feel like using a Lightning Strike here is probably worth it. And then next turn we have to decide between Enigma Drake and Guttersnipe. It's gonna be Adventurous Impulse, opponent using their energy, which is a little strange. But they were gonna cast a J-Light Ranger anyway. And a Scarab God. They're gonna keep on top. I think I'm just gonna run out the Enigma Drake here. Since if our opponent plays Scarab God, we can fly over it. And then if we draw a land next turn, we can go Guttersnipe plus Crash through. There's a Scarab God. Opponent gets in for 4. So drawing Unsummon now would be pretty decent too. Instead, more Enigma Drakes. So we might lose a race here to our opponent just having a 4-power creature and a 5-power creature on the ground, which is not where we want to be. So we'll attack for 2, play Guttersnipe, and then hope that we can somehow outrace Scarab God. Probably gonna side in additional Unsummons here. And our opponent could get back Wild Growth Walker from the graveyard. They decide not to. Is this a hostage taker? It is. Gonna go after Enigma Drake. And looks like they might have a Blossoming Defense as well here, which would be pretty unfortunate. But even if they don't have Blossoming Defense, they can just get back Hostage Taker with Scarab God. So I think we're pretty dead here. So we kind of need an Unsummoned for Scarab God, and we also need to Lightning Strike the Hostage Taker. But that's not gonna work with the cards we have in hand. Alright, let's cycle this Crash through first, I guess. Let's just do it now. And we can't really afford to attack with Guttersnipe, since our opponent can get back Hostage Taker to get rid of a blocker. So we're gonna have to chum block here, which is pretty ugly. So just needed a few more lands here to be able to cast multiple spells a turn, or maybe needed an Unsummon to get rid of Scarab God to buy ourselves a bit more time. So we'll definitely be bringing in the additional copies of Unsummon here. Merfolk Branchwalker reveals Blooming Marsh, and Scarab God on Hostage Taker to steal Enigma Drake. And we're forced to chum block Scarab God with Guttersnipe, which is not a happy place. I don't think we have outs. Alright, so on to sideboarding for game 3. Let's bring in additional Unsummons. And what do we take out? I could see cutting 2 Charter Courses, since it's going to be tricky to be able to attack if our opponent keeps casting Hostage Takers over and over. Would like to be on the play, and can't really keep a 5-lander, sadly. Alright, this one's better. And do we keep Opt on top? I don't think we do, since we're just looking for lands. So let's Opt end of turn. And yeah, I think I'll take a Spirebluff. And then plan strategically. I think we're more interested in an additional Enigma Drake over Guttersnipe here, but it's close. Also have to think about Scarab God implications. I would rather have my opponent steal a Guttersnipe out of our graveyard than Enigma Drake. So I'll take Enigma Drake here. This time our opponent did not have the turn 1 elf, so they're a bit slower, so we might be able to get them with double Enigma Drake here. Turn 2 Branchwalker, that's fine. Reveals Lenor Elves, which they kept on top. Alright, time to run out to Drake. Servant of the Conduit, that's okay. Into Lenor Elves. So our opponent's setting up here. And a Cryptic Serpent, that's exciting. So we have 3 instants and sorceries right now. I think we're probably just casting another Enigma Drake here. Could consider killing some of the mana creatures, but we might want to save the Lightning Strikes to go face, or to kill Hostage Takers. So let's get in there with Enigma Drake. And we're mostly going to use the Cryptic Serpent to kind of hold off the opposing creatures from attacking us on the ground, while the Enigma Drakes fly over. Our opponent does not have enough mana to cast Hostage Taker and cast Enigma Drake. Ooh, but Vivian Reed is an issue since that can kill a flyer with the minus ability. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty effective. Alright, another Enigma Drake is not a bad draw. So I guess I'm into playing another Enigma Drake then, since yeah, Lightning Strike on Vivian still doesn't let us cast the Cryptic Serpent here. Otherwise that would be a more tempting play. So I'm just gonna kill Vivian, and then play another Drake. And hope both our Drakes can survive. But now we're in the territory where our opponent could steal an Enigma Drake and cast it through Hostage Taker, but luckily their land was Blooming Marsh, so that's not a play they can make. Ooh, but Confiscation Coup works just the same. Opponent definitely into stealing our creatures apparently. Well, luckily Enigma Drake is just a 1/4 on the opponent's side of things. And the attack, so Blossoming Defense is not a concern, otherwise our opponent could have cast Blossoming Defense on Enigma Drake and potentially traded for ours. But now that's not a concern. But we are behind in the race. Land was a good draw, so now we get to Lightning Strike something and cast Cryptic Serpent. So let's attack with Enigma Drake, kind of hoping our opponent blocks. They don't, but we're still gonna Lightning Strike something here to grow the Enigma Drake. So would we rather kill the Servant or the Branchwalker? I guess our opponent already has all the mana in the world, but just to avoid Hostage Taker into Enigma Drake, I'm gonna kill the Servant here, I think. And get them for 4. And then play a nice cheap Cryptic Serpent. And say go. Alright, let's hope to dodge another Hostage Taker here. Scarab God might be bad. Wild Growth Walker, that's okay for now. Depends how many Explore cards they still have in hand. The answer is 1 at least. Merfolk Branchwalker reveals Aethersphere Harvester, that's also a good one. And they're gonna keep it on top, understandably. Enigma Drake gets in for 1. And Sulfur Falls a draw, not what we wanted. Alright, so I think we're attacking with the Cryptic Serpent here. Opponent could double block with both Branchwalkers, then we Lightning Strike one of them. If our opponent triple blocks, what happens? Then we get to kill Wild Growth Walker and Branchwalker, which seems okay. Yeah, I think I'm into attacking here. Opponent does go for the double block with Branchwalkers. Let's hope they're out of Blossoming Defenses. Alright. So that was okay for us, and we know the opponent's drawing a Harvester, which in combination with Enigma Drake can double block our Enigma Drake. So what are we looking for here? An Unsummon would be pretty great, since we could Unsummon Enigma Drake and then get it back, which is also something I forgot to mention when dealing with Hostage Taker. Instead, our opponent's last card was Scarab God. Yeah, that's a problem. So something interesting to note is that if our opponent steals our Enigma Drake with Scarab God, the power of Enigma Drake is still going to be equal to the number of instants and sorceries in the opponent's graveyard, so it's not going to be 4, which is definitely relevant. Otherwise a 4/4 Enigma Drake would be pretty difficult to get past with our Enigma Drake. Alright, let's lead with an Opt, I guess. Bottom the island. And draw a mountain, yep. I guess we're still attacking with the Serpent since we don't want our opponent to have Scarab God in play. But they most likely just chum block with an Elf, or they can chum block the Enigma Drake, that also works. So that does buy us a bit more time at least. But of course, opponent gets their Scarab God back, so it's only a temporary solution. I think we keep the lands in hand. Might need to discard them to Charter Courses. Although I guess playing one's fine. If we chain a bunch of Charter Courses, we might need more lands in play. So our opponent has Harvester and Scarab God in hand. They can only play either one of them. And it's gonna be the Harvester, alright. So we got the Scarab God off our back for a turn cycle. So I think this is good for us. Get a little bit of breathing room And Warlord's Fury was a good pickup. Mountain was not. Let's get in there. Might see a chum block from Harvester, since it's pretty risky to take it here. If we have a Lightning Strike, the opponent's dead. But our opponent does decide to take it. That's courageous. Alright, let's just say go here and hope for the best. So their hand is Scarab God plus 1 unknown. And their Scarab God. We're just 1 unsummon away from winning this one. Instead of Mountain. That's unfortunate. Got pretty close here. But at least the Harvester's chum blocking. But the problem is next turn our opponent gets back 2 Enigma Drakes from our graveyard. And I don't see how we're winning from that position. Harvester gets crewed. Just needed 1 extra action spell to get the job done here. Say go. And now I imagine our opponent's gonna steal our Enigma Drakes. If they only had 1 Scarab God activation, then Unsummon would still be an out, but given that they can potentially get 2 activations here, means it's gonna be difficult. So we might still be okay here. Opponent's still in chum block mode with our Enigma Drakes, and Unsummon still wins us the game. Crash through is not bad either. If we can draw into a Lightning Strike, that might be enough. Instead gets negated. Wow, did not expect our opponent to bring in Negate against us. Let's attack with Enigma Drake, which luckily still doesn't trade for the opponent's Enigma Drake. Alright, so we're buying ourselves time here. But now our opponent can attack with Scarab God and Wildgrowth Walker, while getting back more Enigma Drakes from our graveyard to block ours. So we still need to top deck something relevant, and we need to hope our opponent doesn't top deck anything relevant. So opponent gets Enigma Drake. It's gonna drain us for 1. So we go to 1 life here if they don't have anything, and attack us for 8 on the ground. If they have an Explorer creature, we're dead. And Ether Hub means they can get back something else from the graveyard here. What can they still get back here is the question. They can get back a Merfolk Branchwalker, but then they tap the Elf. So the Wildgrowth Walker would grow, but they would not be attacking with Elf, so that's still not lethal. So yeah, they're just gonna cast the Merfolk Branchwalker after cycling. It's gonna grow the Wildgrowth Walker. I guess that means that now Enigma Drake's not lethal anymore. Opponent attacks for 8, put us to 1. So Unsummon doesn't do it anymore. We need to cantrip into an Unsummon here to win. Alright, let's see if we can do it. Would be pretty epic. Instead it's another mountain. Oh well, we tried. Opponent blocks. And that's gonna do it. Scarab God can just drain us out here on the opponent's upkeep. Yep. So very close game here, drew a few too many lands near the end. So I wanna thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this gameplay. And as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached, we will release an additional weekly series. So if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.